While most eyes are fixed on the war in Gaza, few realize that the real battle for Israel's future is being fought by Netanyahu and President Trump in the shadows. And this may be the most explosive story you haven't heard. Prime Minister Netanyahu's latest trip to Washington, D.C., his third this year, and second meeting with President Donald Trump on this trip itself, sparked intense speculation. Are they meeting about Gaza, Iran, a future regional deal? Yes, all of that. But ultimately something deeper is unfolding beyond all those issues. These meetings aren't just about military coordination or diplomatic issues. It reflects a shared understanding that no external victory is possible without also confronting internal dysfunction. Because Israel is involved in two struggles right now. One war against an Islamo-Nazi enemy with focus right now on Gaza, and one internal sabotage at home. Let's zoom out with me for a second. From the very start of this war on October 7th, a coordinated block of senior legal officials, top IDF officers, and mainstream media figures, Israel's unelected elite, has worked systematically to hijack the war narrative, destabilize Netanyahu's government, and prevent a decisive victory in Gaza. Instead of rallying around the nation's survival, these institutions or individuals launched an internal campaign of psychological warfare. They weaponized the hostage crisis to drain public morale, still fear, and pressure the government into premature concessions. Media allies and expert pundits relentlessly pushed defeatist messaging via the media. Soldiers are dying for nothing. There's no military solution. Bring the hostages home, even at any price. The objective was never humanitarian. It was always political. To force Netanyahu into a deadly ceasefire that would halt the war and collapse his government, not through elections, but by breaking public will. Netanyahu, understanding this dynamic, pursued a war strategy that included limited tactical ceasefires, not as surrender, which the deep state wanted, but as a way to save lives while undercutting the protest movement that had co-opted the real hostage issue. The results are clear. What once paralyzed the country in the beginning of the war has become a fringe cause as the public increasingly sees through the exploitation of genuine pain for political gain that they were doing on the backs of the hostage issue. On the surface, we're battling Hamas, but behind the scenes, an unelected layer of legal, military, and bureaucratic elites has been obstructing government policy, paralyzing decision-making, and undermining our war effort. Many Israelis instinctively shy away from language like deep state. But what else do you call it when a government decision is blocked? Not by voters, but by officials who were never elected. Just listen to Brigadier General Erez Weiner, former head of planning in the IDF Southern Command, who revealed, and I'm quoting, "We should have started by evacuating Gaza City, but we didn't, because the military advocate general said, you can't force civilians to evacuate, and you must keep supplying them with aid. Then we're told, go in and fight, but under those conditions. The result? More fallen IDF soldiers. And now even the new chief of staff has surrendered to the dictates of the unelected elite. Nitzan alone is one of them in Israel, and he says, you might endanger hostages. Yifat Toma Yerushalmi, the military advocate general, says, you may not, you may not. All this is legal nonsense. Then you have Kogat, head, Jassin Alian, also in the IDF. We must keep the aid flowing. This is all insanity. End quote. This isn't a political opinion. That was operational reality from someone who helped run the war effort. And the same unelected legal elites who have paralyzed our war effort since the beginning has been waging a crusade against IDF soldiers, including the one who served at the Stay Teiman prison holding Hamas terrorists from October 7th. The legal establishment accused them of abuse, relying on testimony that they told the Hamas terrorists to say, and on a video exposed to have been doctored with no proof whatsoever of any wrongdoing by the soldiers. Yet the blood libel in that video was launched into the world. However, this same legal elite have ignored the far more troubling misconduct inside their own ranks. There has been no investigation into the legal insiders allegedly involved in doctoring that video and leaking it of prisoner mistreatment to the media. A manipulated video that was leaked to the media on a silver platter. That clip reached billions of viewers worldwide, fueling a modern-day blood libel against Israel and our IDF soldiers. And just days ago, UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese cited it as proof that Israeli soldiers systematically sexually harassed Hamas terrorists in custody, even today. The video's leak didn't just smear Israel's name. It endangered our global legitimacy, demoralized our soldiers, and handed Hamas a diplomatic victory. Yet while soldiers face public crucifixion, those within the legal system who enabled this international scandalous blood libel remain untouched, protected by the very legal institutions now claiming to defend ethics and the rule of law. What kind of justice system holds soldiers to impossible standards in combat in a just war, but shields their own who sabotage the war effort from within? Israeli attorney Ephraim Dimri recently said in an interview that he has proof that ties the Biden administration directly to the legal prosecution of the IDF soldiers in that State Taman prison connected to that doctored video. These are huge issues hidden from the public that expose a deep, deep problem that needs to be exposed and stopped. And it's not just about the military. The U.S. Department of Justice recently issued a second official notice to the far-left Israeli NGO Blue and White Future, demanding that they present documentation about tens of millions of dollars that it received from the Biden administration. Why? Because the U.S.-funded Israeli NGO was a central player in anti-Netanyahu government protests, not to pressure Hamas, but to topple the Netanyahu government. Using the judicial reform protest movement and then the hostage families' pain as political tools for another protest movement in the middle of the war, those campaigns aim to delegitimize Netanyahu's government, topple it, and block its war policies. If true, this would mean American taxpayer money helped finance internal Israeli protest campaigns to topple an Israeli government that also weakened Israel during our very just war. That's not just controversial. That's a national security breach that the Biden administration was allegedly involved in. And now even the ideological architects of Israel's activist legal system are admitting the stakes. Former Supreme Court President Aaron Barak, who reshaped Israel's judiciary into a judicial dictatorship, said recently, last week, and I quote, "If Netanyahu leaves political life, there would be no justification for continuing the trial. If he retires from politics, I think it's not a bad idea that the trial should also come to an end." End quote. That's a stunning statement. If the charges against Netanyahu are real, they should proceed, regardless of politics. And if they're not real, they should be dropped. Instead, you have a former Supreme Court justice saying that if Netanyahu walks away from politics, the legal system will quietly let the charges go. That's not the rule of law. That's political blackmail. This is why the Netanyahu-Trump alignment matters. Not because of personalities or partisan politics, but because both leaders have been facing the same challenge of an unelected deep state institutions that have drifted from their mandates, acting as power centers unto themselves, even though they're unelected. This isn't about left or right. This is about democratic accountability. When unelected legal officials or security officials override government decisions on life and death military policy, that's a crisis. When U.S.-funded Israeli NGOs run political pressure campaigns to topple our government, especially during wartime, that's a security threat. When top military brass ignore binding cabinet decisions, that's not independence, that's insubordination. We've seen this before in 1982 during Israel's first Lebanon war. Internal pressure campaigns and foreign condemnation fueled by the Sabra and Shatila massacre by Lebanese Christians led to Israel's premature ending of the war. Then too, rising IDF casualties and media pressure were weaponized by the left to halt a war mid-fight. Netanyahu remembers that moment well. He's determined not to let history repeat itself. He has already delivered major blows to Iran's proxy networks, damaged Iran's nuclear and ballistic weapons programs, weakened Hamas's military infrastructure, and resisted global pressure for a premature ceasefire. But to finish the job, he must also take back control at home from the internal institutions. That means restoring civilian authority over military and legal bodies to submit to government. It means confronting insubordination directly, and it means telling the public a hard truth. We are not struggling slowly in Gaza because of Hamas's strength, but because of deep state senior positions who weaken our resolve, handcuff our army, and try to divide our people in wartime. This is not just a war against terrorists in tunnels in Gaza. It's a war against fear, dysfunction, and the deep state machinery in both Jerusalem and Washington that has worked to erode the authority of Israel's elected governments for years and sabotage their ability to act. Now, Netanyahu and Trump are doing more than comparing notes. They are forging a joint strategy to confront and dismantle the unelected power centers, deep state, that have hijacked policy in both countries. The parallel power structures that allowed U.S. State Department-funded NGOs in Israel to operate freely in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem against our Israeli elected governments without oversight or accountability are finally being brought to an end. And it's going to take time. This isn't about defending one leader or another. It's about defending democracy itself, the right of free nations to be governed by those the people choose, not those the system, the deep state, protects. No more legal vetoes on war policy, no more foreign-funded interference, no more unelected elites dragging our nation into paralysis and defeat. What began as meetings in Washington, D.C. may well be remembered as the start of a coordinated effort to reclaim democratic control in both Washington, D.C. and Jerusalem to stop the sabotage, protect sovereignty, and chart a path forward based on strength, not submission. The world is watching, and this time, the people, not the unelected deep state bureaucrats, must win. And we as Jews, and we believers, we must place our faith in God above, that everything is going to turn out okay. Yes, we look at everything Trump and Netanyahu are doing, we still question, we still criticize, and then we look at analysis to try to better understand what's going on. But regardless of it all, the good and the bad, we remember we the Jewish people are back as sovereign in our ancestral homeland, fulfilling our purpose where we're supposed to be, and strengthen your faith in the God above. The trajectory is positive. Unbelievable times are coming. Am Yisrael Chai. If you are not yet a subscriber to our daily, belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect, truthful videos about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe today. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We need your donations for support in order to make these videos and get our videos seen and do all the work we do. So every once in a while, whether a large donation or a small donation, just go to pulseofisrael.com and click on the donate button. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.